Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you cruise a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way down in Florida. How you doing today, Christy?
I am well, Steve. How are you?
Not too bad. We're just going to jump into it and welcome our guest back for the millionth time. Several times she's been on our podcast. I love every time we get a chance to talk to her. She is the author of Disney Cruise Line's Unofficial Guide. The 2024 edition has just come out recently. And I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way up in New York. How you doing today, Erin?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
So this is just for one of our favorite listeners, Joe. He loves it when we talk about the weather. So I wanted to bring you on. And instead of talking about the weather in Florida, I figured I'd ask about the weather in New York. I think there's kind of a storm came through recently or something like that.
We had a big rain thing over the weekend, mostly on Sunday, but it's gone. We have had no snow. I mean, like maybe literally one flurry. Like one of my daughters is a school teacher in Manhattan, and the kids saw like literally one flurry out the window and, pandemonium broke out, but we've not had any appreciable snow yet. And it's still pretty warm. Like most of this week, the highs are in the like high 40s, low 50s. So it's not been brutal yet at all. So I'm good.
It's an El Nino year out here on the West Coast, and I'm not sure how that affects the East Coast. So it's going to be a lot warmer winter generally overall. We don't get as much snow and all that type of stuff. So I'm not sure what that does to the East Coast. I should know by now.
We got almost no snow last year too. It sort of makes me a little sad, but that's okay.
We've had to wear pants and coats and
OMG.
And so I don't know what your warm weather is like.
Did you put
socks?
Yes,
and socks. And my son's been having to go to school in pants and a sweatshirt. So,
okay.
It's been like 47 in the morning.
Wait, you're from like a real North state.
I know, but I don't like the cold, which is why I left it.
I grew up in, so New York is warm and toasty for me,
So there you go, Joe. We got your weather report in for this podcast. But
I could go on.
Well, thanks for coming back, Erin. I know that a lot of our listeners have heard you on our show before, but I guess could you just give a quick Disney background, some of the experiences you've had for those who are new to our show, new listeners?
Sure. I got my start with Disney. I was one of the members of the first Disney World Moms panel, which has changed names a couple times, is now the Plan Disney panel. I was a member of the first team in 2008, and I did that for 4 years-ish. And then I've blogged for Food Blog and All Ears a little bit. And then I've been with touringplans.com since 2011. So like 12 and a half years now. And for 10 years, I've co-authored and I'm now the lead author of the Unofficial Guide to Disney Cruise Line. So this is my 10th year doing that. So I've been to Disney Paris, Disney Hong Kong, 10 ABD trips, all the cruises. I've given them all my money. That's the short answer.
We understand how that goes.
Well, 10 years is a long time. What's kind of changed from the first year you kind of helped author it until now? What are some of the changes you've seen? Well,
at the beginning, there were just 4 ships, and now there's, soon to be 7. So there, definitely 5, another 2 really, coming up soon. So that's been huge. And then the addition of the Lighthouse Point. So it's just been a lot of looking ahead, what's coming and trying to prepare for that. So I want to say the first 5 years or so, it was just, updating things like prices and just pretty, very minimal changes each year. And the last several years, again, also with the pandemic and all those changes, there's been a lot of fine tooth comb over literally every detail. And how will this detail change when there's more ships and more detailed monitoring of pricing, and how is that changing? More detailed monitoring of protocols with health and safety, that sort of thing. So, the first couple of years, it was a lot of the same. The last 5 years, it's been a lot of new.
And you guys have also gone on to an online edition as well. So not only can you pick up the actual physical book, but you have an online edition which gets updated through the year if something needs to be updated, correct?
Well, it's not an online edition of the book. We have an update page.
That's
the book. There's a link to it. The link is mentioned in the book. So, like, if something major changes, like particularly during COVID, when all those health protocols were changing all the time, we'd make a note, like on page X, this thing that we talked about is now this other totally different thing. And we've had that for, kind of all along, if something major changes. The touringplans.com does have a cruise, a cruise portal, a cruise website, and there is a little bit of duplication of stuff in the book and there, but it's not entirely the same.
I was thinking, how does Disney react to your book? Are they supportive? I know it's unofficial, but it's giving information. It's like free advertising for them for their product. Are they supportive of the book?
I have literally never heard from them. Not once.
Okay.
Not once.
So not supportive necessarily.
Not unsupportive. Like I have a couple of friends, that I've met over the years that I've given, that work with or for DCL that I've given a copy to or whatever. And they're like, oh, thanks. I learned something about the company that I work for from the book. But, I've never had anybody from their marketing team or, PR or anything reach out to me. And, and while it's always fun to get perks and things, there's a real, I think, advantage to that for the reader in that we're paying for our own stuff, and we are having our own experiences that are not, moderated or mediated by anybody at DCL. So we are fully free to say, this thing was great, and that we mean it because we weren't like giving it for free, or
right,
or we're perfectly able and willing to say this thing wasn't my particular favorite, and or we're having the same experience that any guest would have. So that's what we write about and report about, and I make a big effort to talk to other guests when I'm on board the ships to find out what are their experiences. And sometimes I identify myself, obviously, if I'm going to quote them or use their information or whatever. But sometimes I just really love, like in the theaters, to eavesdrop. Like, what are people talking about? What food did they like? What issues were they having? That sort of thing. And some of that ends up in the book. I'll verify it and all that. It's a great source of ideas to sort of like eavesdrop on other cats.
Well, I was going to start off by saying that's one of the things that I really appreciate about your book, Erin, is the fact that it is completely unbiased. You guys are honest with your opinions and saying, this may not work for you, or it may not work for me, but it may work for you, or this is who it may work for.
Yeah.
And for those who have not picked it up, you guys cover everything from staterooms to dining, children's activities, shopping, entertainment, and so much more on the ships. What are some of the things that you heard on the last cruise that you've been on? Maybe some of those eavesdropping things that people are talking about these days.
Well, I'll just, I think most recently.
When was your last cruise? Let's ask that first.
Was in kind of recently, October. I was on the Dream out of New York. We went to Bermuda. Yes, I'm like trying to remember. Like I did several this year. I guess one of the things that, and I spent a lot of time with just like adult friends on that one. So it's very different depending on who you go with. So, I was with a group of my husband and two other couples, and we had a very adult, we drank and we played trivia and we did like adult things. And then when I go with people with kids or little kids, it's a totally different experience. I think it's important that we do have a variety of people on our team that go, and that we go on the same ships and sometimes the same itineraries multiple times. And so an example that really stuck out to me was when the Wish, we were obviously doing a lot of coverage of the Wish because it's new, and we, various members of our team went. And when I went the first time, I just randomly was given an incredible seat right next to the stage. I was with one of my daughters who, we love Broadway and we love performing, and she's a singer, and we had a great, grand experience. She had been studying in Scandinavia, and we love that kind of food. It was just like, we were like, this is the best. And then like 3 weeks later, a member of our team went with her daughter, who was, I think, 8 at the time. And she was like, I hate that Arendelle restaurant. I hate it. I was like, were we in the same place even? And so she happened to be put like in a way back corner where she couldn't see, she couldn't hear. The waiters were like, she was next to one of the serving stations. The waiters were like clanging, doing their job, not doing anything wrong. And I was like, okay, but I like kind of didn't totally believe her. And then I went back again a few weeks after that and happened to be assigned a horrible table like she was. And I was like, an incredible difference in the experience. So, we've written about that now, but it's, a lot of what we do is sort of verifying and testing and going with other people and seeing how experiences differ. And so we can say, hey, if it's important to you, ask for a table near the thing. Or if it's not your jam and you want to talk quietly with your family, ask for the back corner, that sort of thing.
We've actually quoted that article. It was like the tale of two experiences something on our show in the past. And we've talked about it with another guest because it really is that way. And depending on where your table is, and some of those wish tables are
really tight. Yeah.
Really cozy and really in the corner. And like one table, they literally had to move the table so that these other people could get to their seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're like, I feel like that's not the way this is supposed to be. So yes, I found
one example, but like, it could be like, your kid has just coming off an earache and they're cranky. So they hated the kids club. Mm-hmm. Or another kid, it's just a lot of it is your mood, the kid's mood, the weather, whether the castmate that you interacted with is, their cat died at home and they're sad, whatever it is. It's like, I think that's the benefit of us going a lot and having a team that goes a lot is that we can sort of see, oh, that's an anomaly or that's really the way it is,
Well, let's kind of turn to this year's edition, 2024. Are there some things that stand out that are new in this edition that you can talk about, Erin?
A lot of it is better coverage of the Wish because in the last edition, it had just the Wish was just a brand new thing. And so we hadn't been a lot, we'd been, but not a lot. And now we've all been and several times. And so the coverage of the Wish is a lot more fleshed out and a lot more, not that anything was inaccurate before, but it's a lot more detailed and we have a lot more confidence in what we wrote about. And then new stuff, we have the bare bones information about the treasure and the bare bones information about more than bare bones about Lighthouse Point. So those are the things that are coming up for next year that, people are very interested in as they start to book. And then going back to this year, we took out almost all of the COVID protocols that had been in the previous edition. There's still some tiny things like you'll still see the QR codes on some tables for menus and that sort of thing. But most of that has gone by the wayside. And so that was a big process this year of finding all the places that information existed and, taking them out or making sure they were modified or that sort of thing.
If there's any way you can bring back just go take a picture at your muster station. And if we could bring that part of COVID back, I would totally appreciate it.
Although I don't think anybody actually ever paid any attention to the information. So,
No, I totally understand.
I've been fortunate the last several that I've been on since the pandemic, my muster station has always been like in the theater. So I'm just sitting there chilling.
I can honestly say that they've actually done a little bit better job. In the past, they'd always, have to wait until the last people showed up. And now it seems like they just go through it. And it's like, if you don't show up, then they're going to deal with you, later, get a hold of you so that you go back through it. Yeah. Another big aspect coming in 2024 is Port Everglades. Did you guys look into that at all as far as
we did,
maybe places to stay or anything else?
We did. Len, I think, has stayed in Fort Lauderdale area a bunch of times. So we used some of his information from that. But yeah, we did as much research as we could. And I'm on, I think it's the first cruise that goes to Lighthouse Point. And then we've got somebody who's sailing out of Port Everglades, like very soon. I'm trying to remember, but yeah. So that will be in the next edition as well. More on that.
And for people who don't know, Port Everglades is out of Fort Lauderdale. Have you sailed out of there before?
I have not. I have one booked for this spring. I'm trying to remember. I've got several stacked up, so I'm trying to remember. But yes, I'm doing that this spring.
our airline crew hotel is like right next to the port there, and it looks out over it. So it's kind of fun. I can't wait to be able to see the Dream and the ships coming into and out of there again. I've watched Celebrity go in and out and in Norwegian and stuff, but it'll be fun to see Disney there. So excited about that. Let's see, what else do we got here? Talking about the treasure. I know that there's not too much information on that other than what Disney's put out so far, and now that you guys have covered the Wish a little bit more, what are some of the, I hate to ask this question, but I'm going to do it anyways, but what are some of the things that you are anticipating with the treasure as far as, do you think it's going to be a ship that's almost exactly the same other than the different IPs that are on board, or do you think they'll make any changes?
One of the things that I was very aware of as I've written the last couple editions are what did Disney hype up with the Wish? And what were their PR announcements like? And then what actually happened on the ship? So I don't know if you remember, but like they were hyping up like on the Marvel restaurant, like food that was going to shrink and grow. And, all this, like there were a lot of things that they gave a lot of hype to that didn't really, didn't happen or happen in a way that was, not exactly what they said. What's the kids? I'm like totally blanking on it. Okay. The Uncharted adventure.
Oh, the game, yeah.
Right. Like, which seemed in their PR that was going to be like this magnificent grand thing. And it's really like you walk around the ship with your phone, like tapping on stuff. Like it's no different than any other, whatever. So I'm very aware to take what they say with a grain of salt and not sort of fall into the hype trap in a way that, we might have in previous years. It's going to be the Wish with some different IPs. Now, some of the IPs I like a little better maybe than the ones that are on the, Wish. Like I think, for instance, the Little Mermaid show on the Wish is not my particular favorite thing. And there's been so many versions of the Little Mermaid show in other arenas. So that was a little, I don't know, a little less than creative. But I'm excited to see the Moana thing, and I'm super excited to see the Haunted Mansion bar, whatever it is, so there are things I'm excited about, but it's Wish 2.0 in my head,
With a little bit different theming. So yeah, I'm excited about that Haunted Mansion bar, but as Christy is, because she likes everything about Halloween and haunted.
Lies.
But I'm excited about the IP and just the overall feel of the ship.
There's some, I don't understand some of the choices they made with like, it's like the adventure, but the they're like what show is on what ship and it's sort of, one hand wasn't talking to the other,
Yeah, I've heard people talk about the pirate bar that potentially could be coming to Disney World, and why isn't that on there versus the Haunted Mansion, because Pirates in the Caribbean and all that type of stuff. But yeah, sometimes it just doesn't get thought out. Let's turn to Lighthouse Point. What are some of the things that you've heard about Lighthouse Point? What are you excited about?
What have I heard? I'm excited that I think there's going to be more codification to the entertainment. I think some of the entertainment on Castaway Cay is like there's just that sort of, I don't know, a gazebo kiosk thing sort of in the middle, and there's sometimes like a steel band, or sometimes I'm like back in the day they were like racing hermit crabs or something, and it feels like there's going to be like an actual stage with maybe actual performers that you can see. I think that there's going to be perhaps some better shopping, maybe. I think the food service might run a little better. I hope that it'll run better for people who have, dietary issues or whatever. I think it's not going to be like some of the other ships, other cruise lines, islands with like giant, zip lines or whatever. But I think it'll be pretty chill, but nicer, like a nicer Castaway Cay.
I've always said that I get the fact that I love the excitement of Perfect Day at Coco Cay and like the idea of having a big water park and everything like that. Yeah. But the thing that I've always appreciated about Castaway Cay is it's really been times where we as a family, especially when our kids are younger, now the kids are a little bit older, they want to do their own thing, but we actually could spend time together. And I always appreciated that, where sometimes like when you're just running from one exciting adventure to another, you kind of like you're doing things together, but it's not quite as complete, I guess in my mind, as far as spending a whole day where you're just throwing the football back and forth or going down the water slides together, I guess.
And I could easily be wrong, but I think that there's not so many more opportunities to for upsell. Like there's excursions and that sort of thing, but it's not like, oh, the fancy people get to pay an extra $200 to go in this fancy part of the whatever. And I don't think that Disney is going down that road with DCL remarkably. So that makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because that is the thing about Perfect Day is the whole, please pay $200 per person to go. And this is supposed to be your included beach day to go to their water park. And is that water park good for everybody?
Do you know, are they going to have more cabanas there? Because we seem to talk about cabanas a lot on this show.
Do you know?
No.
I don't think they are. Yeah.
Okay.
They need more.
Right.
I was hoping that they would. And especially with the bigger ships, like you're going to have, they're not only going to always have the magic going to this island. So they have so many concierge and people are like in concierge thinking that they are going to get a cabana. And mathematically, that's not always that. You're not likely to get a cabana, especially on the Wish. Like,
yeah, one of my, to write the book, I monitor a lot of like cruise related Facebook groups. I don't really participate. I just try to see like what are people's issues and that sort of thing. The thing that cracks me up the most every time is like these first or second time cruisers going, what do I need to do to get a cabana? I will only do XYZ if I get a cabana. And I'm like,
you're not getting a cabana. As a travel agent, this comes up for me and people, and I'm just honest. And I said, you're not getting a cabana. There's a rare chance that there's a wait list on the ship that you might make it through. But even my concierge guests are maybe 50% chance of getting it because of Facebook groups. Back when I first started cruising in concierge, so my son would have been this would have been 8 years ago. These Facebook groups weren't such a big thing. So you knew that you could send in your email at midnight and like nobody else was doing it until the morning. But then as soon as all the Facebook groups told everybody to send it in at midnight, that is what they're doing, which is fine. Right. But literally there's 50 emails coming in at exactly midnight and there's 20 cabanas. So 24 if you count the
Serenity.
The adult only beach. So yeah, it's just not mathematically it doesn't work.
Yeah. Let's stay with the higher end kind of conversation here. Over the years, Erin, what are some of the advantages that you see concierge provides people besides the cabana and the free popcorn that Christy always talks about?
Included, Steve. Included. Popcorn. I've paid heavily for that popcorn.
It ain't free. What are the advantages? Len Testa, my co-author person, one of the things he says that I always will come back to is it makes problems go away with a magic wand made of money. That's wand is made of money and it makes
it's your own animator's palette, sort of.
Right. It's like that little wand thing they give you when you step on the ship on the Wish. One of the most interesting conversations I had with a guest a few years ago was a family that had a son with moderately severe autism who always sailed concierge, not because they needed the fancy room or anything, but because it made boarding easier for their son who had overstimulation issues. It made the whole process sort of smoother and quieter, and it helped them, his medical issues, the concierge situation helped him navigate his medical situation and made their lives easier that way, which I thought was interesting and smart. It's, it's nice to be pampered.
Yeah. It is nice to be pampered.
Yeah, I've never sailed concierge, but just hearing people's stories over the years and how they do, just the amazing cast members that they have up there that take care of you during your sailings and stuff. Let's turn to another new addition to Disney Cruise Line, which is Australia. Did you guys touch on that very much, or have you looked into that?
A little. Yeah. We have not been, and I don't know that it's super on our budget right now to do that, which makes me sad. It's a different audience. I mean, I think obviously there are some people who are making the long Trans-Pacific crossing, Disney Cruise Line diehards, some. But I think obviously their aim is because so many of the sailings are these little short 2, 3, 4, just in the Australia, New Zealand area, they're trying to get, a handle on what that market is. So, it looks like they're going to do that for a few years and then make bigger decisions. My guess is that one of the ships will be sort of permanently, housed, docked there, home ported. That's the word. So I think they're still in like this sort of experimental phase with it right now. And I think that one of the ships that we're all used to will sort of probably eventually live down there.
It seems like they're kind of doing that with the Wonder right now. Yeah. Although they're bringing her back to do Alaska again, so we'll see what happens beyond that.
I mean, Australia is very cold in our summer, so it makes sense for them to bring the ship back and forth, and they can fill it. So enough people, at least for now, will do the crossing to make that like a worthwhile experience for them. But to be my time that I went to Australia, it was in our summer. And so it was like 30 and 40 degrees in the different, which is cold for, I'm on a cruise ship vacation, right?
Yeah.
So
even like the, I've done the Northern Europe a couple of times and it's not nearly, it's in the 50s, 60s, which is pleasant for me,
I actually love that kind of weather, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
It's a great way to be able to see the cities and stuff like that when you get off. Well, let's see that side of the world. There is another ship that we haven't touched on, the Disney Adventure, right? That is coming, that is going to be going to Singapore. Does that excite you at all? Is that like a cruise that you would want to do to get over there and try that? I mean, I'm sure you would want to do it.
Yeah, I would want to. Sure. I'm mostly curious to see how it's going to be different for the Asian market. Will it be gambling? How much Disney will be on it? Will it be different Disney? I follow this, random travel content she just covers Japan. Her handle is Her Atlas, and she's an American woman with a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and who lives in Japan and covers Japan. And she this week has been posting from Tokyo Disney World and just Tokyo Disneyland. There we go. And she's posting like prices of the souvenirs and stuff. And so like she's showing the ears and they're, whatever they are in yen. And the price is the equivalent of $10 or $12 in US. And those ears are $35 in Florida, or California or whatever. And so I'm really interested to see how Disney translates to that. Like, what will they be expecting? Will the prices of souvenirs be different? Will they have different souvenirs? How will the food be? It's like when you go on one of the ships that exist now, it's like American, British, like the eggs and the whatever. And then there's like this one teeny little section that's like, oh, little miso soup, little whatever. And it's probably going to be the other way around, like Asian specialties plus like the little tiny corner of the pancakes, or whatever. So I find that stuff fascinating. But, obviously it'll be incredibly interesting to see how it shakes out and what all their ports will be. And, I love sailing in like Europe, where you can go to a lot of different places and see a lot of different culture without the packing and unpacking. Like that's absolutely my favorite thing. So it would be a wonderful, wonderful way to see parts of Asia if you don't want to be nervous about, taking transportation in between major cities, that sort of thing. So that would be awesome right there.
Yeah, definitely a great way to, just as all cruises do, kind of dip your feet into that part of the world and kind of experience it in kind of a somewhat known, because I'm sure, like you said, it's going to change a little bit. I followed the Norwegian Bliss and the Norwegian Joy when they built it, and the Joy was built for Asia, and they've since brought it back. But I remember that they had like a lot of shops on board, and they changed those shops into, because Americans like to drink, so they turned them all into lounges. They had a lot more shopping on board when it was over in Asia, so I'm kind of curious to see what they do that way as well too. Yeah. So,
and the casino, I still am dying to know what is happening. Casino or no casino? What will the answer be?
Yeah, I don't know.
You should go to Vegas and bet on it, Christy.
There is no one taking that bet. And
I bet you somebody will take a bet. In Vegas, they'll take a bet for anything.
You should become a bookie and do that.
Yeah. We will put that out on the on our Facebook site and see what people can do. All right. Any other questions around the guidebooks, Christy, you can think of?
No.
No. Okay. Erin, is there anything that we haven't touched on about the guidebook this year that people should know about, or that you want to talk about, or maybe some things that you've thought about before we kind of pivot to some other topics?
No, I think you guys are good. Just, there's the stuff like people, there's stuff about comparing Disney Cruise Line to, it's not new, but comparing it to Disney World or the river cruises or other cruise lines that, if you're not sure whether you want to go on a Disney cruise and you're thinking, oh, is some other version of Disney or some other version of travel right for me? We cover that a lot, which I think sometimes doesn't get noticed, which, I think, or you can check the book out it's in a lot of libraries. So if you're not sure you want to pay for it, that's another good way to check it out.
That's one aspect of the book I've never really thought about as far as being able to compare, Adventures by Disney per se, or maybe Walt Disney World versus Disney Cruise Line if you're a little bit nervous. Because I didn't want to go on a cruise the very first time. I was like, I don't really want to do this. But once we did, we just fell in love with it. So I know there's a lot of people that have probably questions out there. It's like, why should we pivot this way as far as Disney goes?
Right. And, there are some, sort of stylistic things. It's like the pace of the vacation could be different between the cruise and Disney World. Or like if you have certain medical issues, maybe one is better than the other. Like if you have certain allergies, although Disney Cruise Line is really top notch about trying to accommodate those. There's some medical things where they can accommodate you on a cruise and you should really stay on land. And, we give information about that sort of thing as well.
Well, let's pivot and turn to another part of the Disney Corporation, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Adventures by Disney. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, have you been on an ABD recently?
I have not. We haven't been since the pandemic. We had one to Japan that was canceled, and then some stuff happened with our family, but we do have one booked for August of 24. We're going to Portugal, ABD, and I just could not be more excited. I've been dying to get back to Europe and get back to ABD for a really long time. So that's my thing that I'm looking most forward to coming up.
My brother and his husband have been over to Portugal the last 2 years, and they've absolutely loved it. What is it about Portugal that you're excited about?
Same thing. We've had a lot of friends and relatives who've been, and, some of it is timing. Like it actually is one of the ones that worked out for my daughter's schedules. Yeah, we've had a lot of friends and family go to Portugal in the last couple of years and say, it's beautiful. It's magnificent. It's for the ABDs. It's priced pretty well. We're just looking forward to that level of service and fun and hanging out, I'm giddy.
I love that.
They went through the Porto region and they absolutely loved trying all the different ports over there, plus the music, the fado music. So Adventures by Disney has 2 new adventures out beyond the expedition cruises and stuff like that. And that is to Morocco and Colombia. If we could pay for you to go to one of those 2 places, where are you going to go, Erin?
I would go to Morocco because my life goal is to get to all the countries in the World Showcase.
I love that.
I have a few left. I haven't been to Japan. That's like so. And then I haven't been to Morocco, but I think those are the only 2 I have left that I haven't been to. I like doing a little lap around the countries in my head. So yes, Morocco, sign me up. Let's go.
Colombia's kind of like tugging at me for a little bit, although I think Morocco would be amazing. Colombia's just exploded. I remember, for those that are a little bit older, like in the 90s, it was not a country that people really visited because of all the kind of the drug cartel and everything going on down there. But it has since, I'm not sure exactly what's pivoted to change, but like everybody I know is going to Colombia these days.
Well, and all the river cruise companies are now cruising in Colombia, like the major players. And so, and then just, I think there's a lot more tours in general, other companies as well going. So yeah, I'm seeing it as a much more traveled location as well.
Great.
And to your point, I was just looking at the pricing just out of curiosity, because we were actually going to Costa Rica in March, and Colombia is on par with Costa Rica and more on Portugal compared to some of the others. So it's an affordable ABD, I think, as far as ABDs go. So,
no,
so I know you. Sorry,
just doing the air quotes. Yes, some of them are not affordable, but yeah.
Well, what is it? They got like 2 or 3 of the round of the worlds. They started with 1, and now they've got 3 next year or something like that. Or...
I want to marry
and they
that family.
Sell out instantly. I want to book that family. So, like, yes, I would like to, travel on it, but I would also just like to be the travel agent for it.
That's fair. Definitely fair.
So I know you guys also talk about river cruising in the book as well, and I think you talk about some of the expedition cruising. What are some of the things that are a little bit different, or in your mind kind of stand out when you talk about river cruising versus the regular DCL? And I know that you and we've talked about it before, we kind of know it, but for maybe somebody that hasn't thought about this before.
It's a totally different experience. I mean, I love them both, but it's just a totally different experience. The first thing to, if you're new to understand is that the ocean cruise ships, I think the smallest of them are 2,500 guests, or in the largest one are, in excess of 4,000 guests. The maximum on the river cruises is I think it's 156 people. So it's orders of magnitude smaller, meaning you get orders of magnitude more personal service. And it's like the first river cruise I went on, there was a performer, a guitarist that played in the lounge, and he was great. And the ship pulled over at the dock to let him out to go home. It's like if you miss a port on DCL, if you miss the ship, you're like trying to charter a plane, you're like freaking out. If you miss your boarding on the river cruise, you're getting in an Uber and going to the next stop. It's just, and you, as opposed to docking where you might on an ocean cruise at a sort of industrial port where you've got to like take a bus or whatever to get to the town, you're on the river cruise just pulling over right next to a gorgeous little cafe right near the center of town. It's a completely different vibe. You're interacting more because there are so many fewer guests. You're interacting with the same people over and over again. So you can bond more with the crew, you bond more with the guests. I personally thought the food, I've been on 3 river cruises now. I think the food on the river cruises is way superior to the ocean cruises. And I think the ocean cruise food is mostly good, but I think the river cruise food is much better. It's a more personal, more refined experience in my estimation.
You're making Christy smile over there because she's going to be on a ship here in less than a week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, a week from Thursday, the river cruise starts. So
which one are you doing?
We are doing the Rhine Christmas markets.
Yep. No, I'm so jealous.
I can't wait. We're very excited. My son's excited. I'll be curious, and he knows it's different. So I'll be curious to see what he thinks. So he's 10 and a half now. What, like, from his viewpoint, he loves cruising in general. Yeah, we're just very excited.
Do you know if there are any other kids his age? Have you asked? Or
yeah, so overall there are 24 or 26 children on board, and there were quite a few listed that are around his age. And then there's like, Facebook groups, right, for everything. So there's like a chat in one Facebook group, and there's another family that has a 10-year-old as well. So like, even there, and he plays with like kids that are a little bit older, a little bit younger. So yeah, he'll do great.
Awesome.
With that, we're excited.
Awesome. Yay.
Disney puts a recommendation out and I think Blake's the perfect age. I think at Christmas, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so much fun. And they're actually getting snow over there.
Stop it. Hush.
No, you want snow, trust me.
We will speak nothing of the white things.
The one time we went on the Christmas cruise, we went over there for the Christmas markets, it rained the whole time. It was cold.
Well,
so
that is
I'd rather have the snow.
There's a lot of rain.
Erin,
right
you've been on a couple. Do you have an age? Everybody's kids are different. Some kids could be 6 and go on and be totally fine. But any thoughts on as far as Adventures by Disney, maybe a river cruise, like age-wise for kids?
I think 10 is perfect. I mean, you want, if you're going from like, say, the US or Canada to Europe, you want to have a kid that will not freak out about the time change, where, that they're flexible enough, that they have a temperament where they can talk to other kids, other people, that sort of thing. That said, obviously, anybody can go. But I think, like a medium school age kid is sort of perfect because they're used to being in different places. They probably have a temperament to be able to sit for a little while, that sort of thing. Anytime you're going far away, I would recommend going a couple days in advance, just to make sure the airlines are not doing crazy things, and to, make sure you're in the right time zone in your head, kind of thing. But yeah,
which is advice for me as a grown person I need to do. So when we've gone to Alaska, I've had to go enough days early because that time change kills me.
Yep.
And the same for Europe, even for grown-ups. So if you are that person and you need to adjust your body clock because your body clock is real particular, make sure you add a little time in. Going to Europe for me has always been pretty easy because, I mean, that first day is just a little bit torture.
Yeah.
And then you just make it mostly till bedtime, go to bed, wake up, and then you're there.
Sometimes it's the reverse, it's worse or whatever. But yeah, I think, I think, 8 to 12 is perfect. I've gone with teens and young adults too. I found it really interesting that there were, on the last river cruise I went on, there were a couple of honeymooners, which I thought was interesting. That to me, they were, I chatted with them a lot, but because the river cruise is so social, like you're not, you can't really get a private table necessarily. So it was a very social honeymoon, but I don't know, maybe there were people that had been together for a decade and like, I want to talk to other people.
I can't spend a whole 2 weeks with just you. So we're gonna need to bring some more people to the table.
But yeah, it's and like the ocean cruise, it's a great multi-generational thing, to go with grandparents or an extended family or a reunion or that sort of thing, because there's you can eat together, but there's different activities where if you need a break from each other, that's good too. Yeah. So one of them we were with my parents, which was really nice, that they got to spend time with their grandkids, and then they also got, if they were having, they wanted to sit a little, they didn't have to be with us all the time.
And not to go back to the book, because if we're kind of talking about it, I know you guys have a lot of stuff on multi-generational cruising too, and like kind of tips and advice for that, which if that's the first time you're planning something like that, there's a lot of things to think about. We've done that with our parents, and like to your point, it's just a great way to spend time together.
Yeah. Whenever you're traveling anywhere with a group, though, I think planning in advance is really the key. Like who's paying for what. I mean, and one of the great things about cruising is generally it's sort of a more inclusive vacation than some other vacations are. So you're not worrying like, oh, did he order the lobster and I ordered the salad, and who's going to split the bill? So like a lot of that stuff goes away, but you want to make sure that generally you're on the same page about money with, excursions if they're not included, or, if you're going with grandma, like, is grandma expected to babysit while you go to the bar, or vice versa? Or, it's just whatever it is, just discuss it all in advance. That's my grand advice for going with any large party.
And if you're going with Christy and I, we tend to spend a lot more on drinks for some reason.
Oh my God. Cruising with a group is so expensive.
It is. Because,
Exactly.
I want to touch on one last thing quick on ABD. They came out with what am I saying now? The excursions, the expedition cruises, but they talked about the Galapagos and everybody's excited about that, and Antarctica, but I'm excited about the Adriatic one that they came out with, which is just kind of a smaller, more intimate ship going through like Croatia and parts of Italy and everything like that, and being able to experience like food, like specific food from the regions, and some just smaller group activities. That one, I think I'm hoping that they succeed in that one and they can do that elsewhere in the world.
Yeah. After I do Portugal, and then Japan is like so on my bucket list, but after that, then that's the next thing that I would love to do. Different parts of Europe that I haven't been to. It looks amazing.
I think we'll finish up with kind of some fun topics here. You live in New York and the New York area and everything like that. Obviously, cruised out of New York, which is still a bucket list thing for us. Christmas time in New York. What are some of the fun things that you enjoy doing? For our listeners, they can't tell, but you're going out to a Christmas party of some sort tonight. But it's a lot of fun Christmas things in New York.
New York is just it's. I've been in the city a couple times the last couple weekends, and it's packed, which is both horrible and really great because it hasn't been packed for a couple of years with the pandemic. So I was in Times Square with my daughter on Saturday, and it was like hard to get around. So you got to pack your patience. What are the fun things to do? I mean, obviously the trees and the decorations and the lights, it's all beautiful. There are a lot of sort of like pop-up igloo bar situations where, you can get cocoa near the ice skating rink in a like pop-up cabin or little like an igloo. There's several bars that are totally Christmas themed with like decorations all around. Obviously the the thing people talk about a lot is the Radio City Christmas special spectacular, which, runs for about 6 weeks. And during the peak of the time, I think they have 5 shows a day. So it's like a factory. I have a lot of thoughts about that show, but, it's just wonderful to walk around and see everybody excited, and the shopping can't be beat. There's like the Bryant Park Christmas Market and the Union Square Christmas Market. And there's a Christmas market in Grand Central Station where all sorts of gifties and fun foods. And yeah, it's just like, there's just a lot going on.
And everybody knows about the Radio City Music Hall show, I guess. Is there a show on Broadway right now that kind of speaks to Christmas? Do they do something like that around the Christmas time?
Last year, there was a version of the Christmas Carol. There isn't this year. So, like they've had a Christmas Story on Broadway. This year, there is not a particularly Christmas themed show. There's a lot of great stuff happening, but not particularly Christmas themed.
When we lived in England, we used to go to London every Christmas, and they'd always do something like Peter Pan or something like that they had at
there's the Nutcracker at the New York City Ballet, and I have a subscription to New York Pop's concert series at Carnegie Hall, and so on the 22nd, I'm going to hear Norm Lewis, who's a great Broadway performer, do a Christmas concert. So there's all sorts of stuff like that, and then at one of my absolute favorite venues in New York is 54 Below. Are you guys familiar with that?
No.
It's like sort of like a supper club. It seats about 150 people, and it's underneath what used to be the Disco Studio 54, which is now a Broadway theater. But it's called 54 Below, and it's like a dinner theater. The food is amazing, and then they have Broadway performers come like twice a night and do like a cabaret style show. And so several of those performances in the next couple of weeks are Christmas themed, which are amazing. We've seen Matthew Morrison, who was on Glee there. A couple of weeks ago, I saw Santino Fontana, who was Hans in Frozen there, with a really small room with great food and drinks. So that's a wonderful place to go if you like that sort of entertainment,
What a magical place to be in New York. Just the lights, the energy, and everything like that. And I would love to do something like that at 54 Below, just to get you in that Christmas movie. I think Disney does such a great job of it, when you go to the parks and everything like that with the decorations and the ships. But there's something about being in a big city like that around this time of year as well. So
there's several skating rinks that you can go to, obviously,
Christy, do you skate?
Poorly. We have determined I am the best ice skater in my family, which is not saying much. And one of our excursions is going ice skating on our river cruise. So we will see again how that went. The last time I went skating was on the Royal Caribbean ship on the Wonder for spring break. And then previous to that, it had been, I hadn't had a child yet. So, no.
Where's your husband?
But
from?
I can stay standing and go forward and turn and try to guide my son. That's wild. But how about you, Steve? Do you skate?
I used to play hockey, so
so you do.
it's been a while since it's been a while since I've been on skates, but I love. I've never done the traditional, go to New York and skate there. Where's that? Why am I totally drawing a blank? Where's the famous skating?
There's Rockefeller Center.
Rockefeller,
Well,
you have to go if you have a layover.
I know. I don't have one this year, so unfortunately.
All right, so I have some wrap up questions if you're up for it.
I'm giving it to you.
Okay, your favorite overall Disney vacation?
My favorite.
You have to pick one. Disney World, Disneyland, Adventures by Disney.
I want to say Adventures by Disney. That's my favorite.
I would have picked that for you too. Your favorite Disney Cruise Line restaurant?
My favorite Disney Cruise Line restaurant is now, I think, 1923.
Yeah, so good.
The food is really good there. Yeah.
Have you had the Delphine? It says, I tell everybody, I think that's what they're called. Potatoes. The potatoes with the lamb. Yeah, so that's good. It. That's the pro tip. You get those potatoes no matter what entree you get.
Yep.
Get 2. Okay. So, and then we just talked about potatoes, but your favorite Disney Cruise Line dish in an included restaurant?
I don't know if they're my favorite, but I get this stupid escargot every time because that's the only time I get escargot. And I just like dipping the bread in the butter. And so that to me is you're on a cruise ship when you have the escargot and the butter and the bread, and there you go. I mean, I like, it's not like I would say, my last meal, I want escargot, but like that to me is what feels very classic. I'm home on DCL,
And there's no escargot or is there on the Wish? I don't think so, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't eat it, but I don't
remember
does
it.
1923 have? All
I
right.
don't remember that it's there. So maybe
Somebody comment in the show notes if 1923. Our listeners are really good at filling in my
Google
gaps.
it, but
No, we're not going to do that.
It's not bumping to the top of my head.
All right. This one you may not want to answer, but your personal favorite Disney Cruise Line ship.
My personal favorite Disney Cruise Line ship is, I believe, the Magic.
Okay. Steve's too. You and Steve are twins.
Had that Magic went to Europe, and I had some of my best family times on the Magic. And I have a soft spot for the smaller ships where you get to, I feel like I interact with the wonderful cast members more on the smaller ships. I like when the smaller ships go to Castaway Cay and it's not quite as busy. So the Magic has a happy place in my heart.
Yeah. Steve would have that answer too.
Is that it?
That's it. That's where my list ends.
That's a tough one to end on. Then putting her on the spot. So
I know we would have edited it out if she didn't want to answer, but she did. So there you go, listeners. Now you know.
the Sophie's Choice of Disney Cruise.
Right?
Exactly.
Pick your favorite kid.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for coming back, and it's always a joy to be able to talk with you, and especially this time of year to see you excited about spending time in the city and in the city that I know you love, and I don't want to keep you so you can get to your Christmas event tonight. But thank you so much for coming back. All you do for the community. And before we leave, if people want to follow you or get the book, where can they find it?
The book is available now for order on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. I saw somebody get it at Powell's Books in person on the West Coast. You can get it at in-person big Barnes and Nobles, not all of them, but bigger ones. I got to say, this is like the dorkiest thing, but it is my absolute favorite thing. It makes my 12-year-old heart so happy if I walk into a real bookstore and I see my book. It's just like, I'm going to cry when I think about it. But yeah, you can get it where books are sold. And thank you for buying if you do.
Well, I'll have to look for it in Powell's, because Powell's is right down the street from us. So I'll have to go down there and send you a picture from it. So
and then,
I love that store.
I would love that.
And the listeners can also find you writing for touring plans. So that is somewhere somebody can look out for your articles as well. I've always really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I'm on touringplans.com, usually twice a week. And I'm on Instagram and on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, once again, Erin, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate all of your time and your thoughts. And I want to wish you and your family all the best as we continue through the holiday season, and hope to see you someday on the parks or maybe cruising on one of the ships.
You guys too. I was so happy that time I ran into Christy.
I was going to say, or at Geyser Point, because favorite for both of us.
Exactly.
So, we'll talk to you guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll do it again, and I do appreciate it this time. All the best for you the holiday season, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks so much.
Bye, Erin.
Bye, everyone.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Erin for coming back on and sharing her. It's always good to connect with her and talk about her experiences, the trips she's been taking, and life in New York, and especially all that she does for touring plans. Go ahead and read her blogs over there at touringplans.com. And also, if you're looking for a good resource for helping plan your next Disney Cruise Line vacation, please give it a serious thought about the Unofficial Guide. You can once again get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and also look for it in your library. I know that there's a lot of past year's copies there as well. We'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters who help bring this show to you each and every week ad-free. If you'd like to find out how you can support this show, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Well, we are headed into we're just about there for Christmas, and Hanukkah is taking place as we speak. If you are headed down to the parks, if you're headed out on a Disney cruise, or like Christy with Adventures by Disney, or just spending time with family and friends, on behalf of all of us here, myself, Steve, Christy, Lake, and Nova, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy time with family and friends, especially this special time of the year, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.